Where I took to Joe, I can't make it, he was on school.
But they must have
We're
like,
going to miss the deadline.
they must have
Anyway,
like
anyway,
water
we've already got
regardless though,
this.
so they wouldn't put you
And
that.
I shut up. And
Right, let's go, guys.
Yeah, Joe's got the easiest ones to do because
Holy moly.
Right, got a koto. I declare the meeting open. Welcome everyone to the meeting. Please let me know if you need to leave the meeting early. And just a reminder that this is being live streamed. Conflict of interests. I call upon members to declare any conflict of interest that they may have in relation to the items on the agenda. Yes.
I don't have a conflict of interest, but I'd just like to note that I'm the council, 3 councils representative on the board of Pacifica Wairarapa Trust.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a bit similar. I'm not declaring a conflict of interest, but I am a past chair of the Wairarapa Committee, or the immediate past period, Wairarapa Community Centre Trust.
Thanks, Gary. Any apologies? I've received an apology from Councillor Boyer and Councillor Lennox. Are there any other apologies? No. I move the motion that the Awards and Grants Committee accepts the apology for non-attendance from Councillor Boyer and Councillor Lennox. Do I have a seconder? Thanks, Gary. And I now put the motion which has been moved and seconded. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The motion is carried. Right, for decision. So this meeting is in relation to the applications received applying for funding from the 2024 to 2034 long-term plan. I'll hand over to the General Manager of Community to present the report. Thanks, Corin.
Thank you, Chair, councillors. So I'll take the papers read. So you'll remember after the deliberations for the LTP on the 4th of June, Council decided to invite the 14 organisations who are listed in the report to apply for grant funding in this July grant round. These organisations have previously been on 3-year funding agreements through the 2021-2031 LTP. You've been provided with a summary of the applications and that outlines the detail of the applications, including their purpose and the amounts requested, and you've also got the full applications. We've indicated in the summary where the amount requested is the same as previous, and that's marked in yellow. All other applicants have requested an increase in funding, with some requesting differing amounts in each year. And just finally to note that through this round, if there's any unallocated funds at the end, that will go into the wellbeing grant round, which is currently open and will be decided in September. And I'll take the questions.
Thanks, Corin. Are there any questions on the report?
Just one through you, Chair. Corin, just as an explanation, Destination Wairarapa, for instance, isn't there, and because Destination Wairarapa came up a lot of the consultation, they're not there because they've got another year before them.
That's right, yeah. So their agreement expires in 2025, so they'll be handled at a different time to the pilot process.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Corin. We'll now proceed to hear from the applicants, and all of the applicants are presenting in person. The list of those who will be hearing from are in the schedule. 1 attached to the report on page 12. The first applicant presenting is Luka Talua from Pacifica or Wairarapa.
I didn't go check. I said
Thanks,
it was
Ruth.
going downstairs. Excuse me, may I ask a question?
Of course you can, Natalie.
You know what you said about Destination Wairarapa? Has the funding that we've allocated, has it already been taken out of that?
Yes, so in terms of what you're dealing with in the indicated amounts in your paper, that doesn't include the amounts allocated to Destination Wairarapa.
Phil Luther. Great to see you, Luther. It's always really good.
Nice to see you up front.
Very good to see you, Lord County. Mr. Chair, ngā iwi ngā mana, ngā tēnā koutou kia kōrua. Tēnā whenua, angatāni nā tika hanunu, tēnā koutou kia koe semana, tēnā koe mikia, koutou katoa, tēnā koutou kia ora tātou koutou. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Kia ora, Luther. So our first applicant presenting is Luther Taloa from Pacifica o Wairarapa, and welcome Luther. You have 10 minutes, 7 minutes to present and 3 minutes for questions from members. So the floor is yours, Luther.
Thank you for that. I won't take up all that time, I'm sure, and I'll take in mind it's a lot of trust submission through the long-term plan that's taking its read. But I want to highlight a couple of things rising out of that. One, to confirm, just a bit of background first. The trust was set up 3 years ago, arising out of shortfalls and the lessons learned from COVID-19, where the Pacific community was basically left behind. And those in charge of the pandemic, locally and nationally, either didn't want to share or refused to share the data, so we could reach out to the Pacific diaspora to provide them that support. Masterton from the 2 iwis got us through the first couple of years in terms of that welfare support. But at the end of the day, what we learned was that unless we are prepared to do it ourselves, get off our backside and be proactive, particularly in advocating for the services that our people deserve, then nothing will change. And that to me is the biggest challenge at the moment. Secondly is to confirm that the Ministry of Social Development funding for us has finished effectively. While that was anticipated, we failed to convince the Ministry that the work that we have picked up on top of what they provided in terms of COVID was in fact had been the shortfall of the services that should have been provided to our people and the community generally right from the start. So all the COVID did was to highlight the discrepancies and I suppose the gap of service that should have been there for our people, and not just our people. The other point I want to make is that while we are called Pacifica, the service is available to anybody in the Wairarapa. Our 22-23 figures show 67% of the families, just under 715 families we supported during that 22-23 years were non-Pacifica families. So the extent of our system. But now there is now more focus by us on our migrant workers and our RSE workers, the people who are in fact we bring into the country to drive our economy. And as history has shown that unfortunately for some policy makers they were also the first people to be picked on when the economy starts contracting as it is at the moment. The vast majority of our Pacifica migrant workers are obviously in the forestry sector is significant, but that again is tightening up now, less and less the forestry. The lands are, farmers are not releasing their lands for the time being simply because of the downturn. The apiary and horticulture employs up to 400 people annually, mainly RSE workers. Filipinos are in the apiary industry, apiary and wood logging, but the vast majority of Pacifica migrant workers under the RSE or workers category employed around forestry, around Masterton, right through to Martinborough. The funding that you folks provided over the last 3 years, 3-year cycle, have been in part or mainly to provide that pastoral care support and advocacy for our people. And one of the things we're so proud of is that it has taken us all this time, the New Zealand government, to provide, to legislate that our people who we bring here to, as I said, to build our economy are entitled to sick leave. And that was only legislated last year, November last year. We're still having issues with immigrations and that. January this year, we had immigration officers came up here and conducted the so-called raid, and this is despite the former Prime Minister of New Zealand standing up there and going through the what we call the formal apology, and lo and behold, 3 years later, the policy that should have been put in effect to affect that apology, nothing had been done on it, and immigration has commissioned a report on that. It was confirmed late last year that despite the apology given, nothing has changed in terms of policy. It's just underground work, and so that's a bit frustrating, and we are again battling with immigration. It's just, again, it's advocacy. If nobody raises with them, nothing gets done. So my respectful, the Trust's respectful submission request is that you support the Trust with $20,000 per annum for the next 3-year cycle of your long-term plan. That will greatly support our funding. With MSD not providing more funding, that's 40% of our funding gone, effectively, which is sad. I was talking at 9 o'clock this morning. I had a call from somebody who said he slept under a bridge in Greytown, and the reason why he called it, said it was the coldest night he's ever had. He's been sleeping in his car for the last 3 years. He's trying to get accommodation, emergency accommodation, but because he's got 2-3 dogs, so it's been turned down. I say that because that's the reality of what's happening out there, and that's a sector of our community to which we have a significant responsibility to. They're the weakest part, and if we don't look after them, it doesn't say much about our community. So we do have a responsibility to them, and I'm open for any questions.
Used every single one of your 7 minutes there, Luther. Are there any questions?
Yeah, hi Luther. Can you just give the group an example of some of the day-to-day activities that you have, such as the homework program, you assisted with the school holiday program, plus your elders groups, and just so that they get an overview of the kind of work that you're doing on a regular basis?
Most certainly. By far the biggest sector is the health sector that's driving us, and that's primarily because it's our main funding, where 50-55% of our funding comes from, and we are trying to focus on the preventive side of the health sector rather than trying to pick up bits and pieces when proverbial it's a fan. But the vaccination programs are important to us, so we drive that as much as we can. We've got elderly groups that meet every fortnight, every 3 weeks, and we find our people, once they retire, there's a tendency to stay home on their own while the family's out working and all that, so at least we're given an opportunity to get out of the house and mix with their own. With the support of some businesses, we'll build just under 125 square metres of a garden, and I'm trying to get them to do a bit of gardening and help out with that. Providing firewood with the council, with your piece of spare land that down by Manaia Road, we've set up a firewood operation there where we provide firewood free to families, and that all the timber we source from people who donate or or your arborist from the council, or the leftover from the guys, we pick them up and use that. Education is important to us, significantly important, so we try as much as we can to steer towards that. The future of our people it's around education, and that. But again, that will be dependent on the after school homework program every week. Supported the council with their school holiday programs and that. I don't know what happened last year, but somebody pulled out at the last minute. The council couldn't go through, so we ended up picking it. Just took us 2 weeks to organise and make sure that for those families that needed it. Yeah, so we support all the schools throughout. I think just doing our report for the AGM is about 22 families we supported through the education. That's from providing uniform, laptops to last them through the first lot. And we don't have any funding from education sector to provide that. We push that from somewhere else. So just a general outline.
Thank you, Lisa. And Marana?
Kia ora. Luther, I suppose you're the face of Pacifica, and I'm sorry that I don't know much about what you do, because I'm busy doing what we do. So I need to know how many people would you employ?
How many people?
Would your organisation employ?
Yeah, we've got 4 full-timers, including myself, and 1 part-timer. Obviously, the biggest expenditure was its wages, and the next one is rental, $50,000 annual rental for where we are. But we're fortunate that the site we use at the moment, which is the old Sedgley home, property owned by the Lighthouse Church in the Intermediate Street, we have the capacity there to expand or use the other bigger facilities for. Masterton was there yesterday, or Monday, using the facility for their training. Again, it's just because the facility is slightly bigger than. Our biggest expenditure was wages and that. And the other point probably I want to make is that the trust has never applied locally to any local or regional funders for support. Partly rightly or wrongly, because I trust believe that the work we are doing is the responsibility of central government and to some support from local government. But now we have no choice, otherwise we'll be out the door the end of March next year. And we are, Pacifica Wairarapa the Trust, we are the only Pacifica specific multidisciplinary provider in the Wairarapa. As I said, but a big sector of this is actually advocating. It's important, because otherwise if we don't make the point, if we don't stand up, if we don't ask the question, we don't test the policy, then we just continue along the same road and nothing will change.
Thank you for your advocacy, Letha. Thank you, Letha. We'll let you know the... Oh, sorry. Is it okay to go to questions? We've gone over to 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's just a matter of...
Just one more question.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Letha, what is the total income for the Pacifica Trust? So, I mean, the amount you're looking for, this is excluding...
So it's about $560,000, our annual budget.
Okay. And it's all funded
All-
from outside?
Yeah,
of
all
Wairarapa?
funded government agencies. We get for instance, this year, the last financial year, Trust Lens Trust gave us $10,000 to run an education program, which we're now devoted to the after school program that's available from intermediate age students to year 13. They come in, have a Marmite sandwich, and then get in an hour and a half with solid homework supervised.
Thank you, Letha. So we'll let you know the outcome of your application in the next fortnight. And thank you for your time and thank you for your advocacy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, William.
Rightio. So our next applicant presenting is Cheryl Watson from the Wellington Free Ambulance. Stop, Cheryl. Cheryl, you have 10 minutes, 7 minutes to present and then 3 minutes for questions from members.
We'll try and make it a bit of time. So thank you for having me present our application today. You may be aware that in 2021, in a partnership that we already had with Masterton District Council, we increased the funding from yourselves from 95 cents to $1 per person per head, something we were incredibly grateful for, as your generous commitment to continue to support us was appreciated. However, that has been based historically on a population per head amount, and today's application is around looking towards our growth within the Wairarapa, and in particular in Masterton. And what we're proposing is that for the funding years of the next 3 years, we consider what actually is the population as opposed to a set figure. And the table presented shows just a small population increase over financial year 25, 26 and 27, and therefore increases the proposed funding that we're requesting, and not by much. I suppose a little bit of background for us. We're the only emergency ambulance service here in the Wairarapa. We are free to our community and we remain free. That's a strategic direction for us based on our founder, who didn't feel that anybody within the community should be faced with not calling for emergency help if they can't afford it. As we all know, the cost of living is going up for people, and that would be a tremendous struggle for people. But we are faced with costs that are increasing. Our operating model continues to change as we introduce different types of level of care. So we've been able to expand the staff's knowledge through postgraduate degrees here around the extended care paramedic. So on average, the statistics are showing that about 60% of our calls here in Masterton we're taking to hospital. The remaining calls are tending to be treated at home and left at home with potential follow-up calls. This also has a knock-on effect to our hospital system that's under a great deal of pressure at the moment. So as I say, we're covering about 4,000 incidents here in the Wairarapa at the moment, with about 7,000 across, 7,000 in the Wairarapa, 4,000 in Masterton. In addition to the emergency ambulance service, people may not be aware, but we are also providing clinical communications at the 111 centre. We also run the patient transfer service here, which is not included in this funding request. We're now building up our event medical services to attend local events here in the Wairarapa. We have a full-time rescue squad on call, and we are also the paramedics on our rescue helicopter for the region. Any questions?
So do you have any questions? Thank you, Madam.
Your 4,000 for Masterton that's annually.
Yes.
So about roughly how many vehicles do you have to respond?
We have 3 full-time 24/7 vehicles. So we have 2 based in Masterton, 1 in Greytown. Obviously we have more resources in Masterton because of the larger population and the demand of calls. What we do have in place, because we've got a very large geographical area, you can appreciate we're going from Mount Bruce to the top of the Rimutakas and out to the coast. It doesn't necessarily take too many events or calls to put us under pressure and strain. So we have a callback process which allows us initially to call back crew or staff who may be off. And the secondary callback process is to bring ambulances from the Wellington region into the Wairarapa, and that works reasonably well. We do work the other way. Sometimes we go into Wellington because the demand is there, but we try to avoid that because of the geographical areas here. If we have a job in Tora and a car accident on the highway, it doesn't take much for us to be under pressure. We also have our shift managers who are on duty, who are trained paramedics. We train paramedics so they can co-respond also to jobs. And we do rely on our local fire emergency to co-respond to our cardiac arrests.
Sure. Are there any more questions at the moment?
How many people do you employ?
We have 30 full-time paramedics here in the Wairarapa who live and breathe the Wairarapa, as well as 2 shift managers, a logistics coordinator who's responsible for all our stock and our vehicles over here, and myself. And then we've got our patient transfer officers as well. They run a slightly different shift pattern.
Bex?
Hey Sean,
Hi.
do you get funding support from South Wairarapa and Carlton?
We do.
Is that on a pop?
We've just gone into the
population?
same process,
Okay.
asking them to consider it, calculated on a population base rather than a set figure. That's a bit historical. So they've been supporting, but it's historical figures.
But you, okay, thanks.
Any more questions? No, thank you, Cheryl. We'll let you know the outcome of the application in the next quarter.
Lovely.
Thank you for your time. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Sean.
Our next applicant is presenting as Nicola Melton, Business Wairarapa.
Hello everyone. I also have Monique with me. She is on the board of Business Wairarapa and will co-answer any questions that you might have.
Fabulous. You've got 10 minutes, 7 minutes to present, and then 3 minutes for questions from members.
So I'm actually just going to read through the funding submission. I think that will sort of clarify what we are, what we're about, and hopefully address any questions that you have. So as you know, since 2020-2021, Business Wairarapa has been a key participant in the Wairarapa Economic Development Strategy Forum, and we absolutely commend the 3 councils on coming together in a collaborative effort in promoting economic development across the region. Business Wairarapa is the proactive force in driving this economic development by providing and delivering training, connections and advocacy on behalf of all Wairarapa businesses. Whilst WEDS focuses on macro-level investment for regional initiatives and local associations prioritise local network and discussion, Business Wairarapa is ultimately the unifying force. We connect businesses, business associations, sector groups, councils and government agencies across the region into a single, powerful database that is accessible to all councils for consultation on major initiatives. We're also the lead delivery mechanism for business capability initiatives, training, support, coaching, workshops, etc. for SMEs in particular in the region. With an average of 3.5 employees per business and 30% of Wairarapa's workforce engaged in business ownership and or self-employment, SMEs play a crucial role in our economy. Business Wairarapa actively provides services that increase capability for small business. We extend our services across all 3 districts and across all sectors, Wairarapa Inc. Our goal is to represent 20% of Business Wairarapa's enterprises by 2027, fostering growth, development and creating opportunities through collaboration, influence and leadership. Our initiatives are aligned with the Wellington Economic Development Plan, emphasising workforce development and resilience as imperative to our economic ecosystem. Business Wairarapa operates from the ground up. We take action to achieve high returns on investment. We're a dedicated volunteer board and one contractor that delivers to 600 businesses throughout the region. With the support and partnership of the 3 district councils, we can continue to make a tangible difference in the lives of local entrepreneurs, business owners, employers and communities. It's also worth noting that Business Wairarapa has been experiencing expansion and heightened demand for its services, but our cost structure and capacity remain unchanged. So to clarify the funding request, both Masterton and South Wairarapa district councils have agreed to maintain the status quo for 2024 as per the past 3 years. Therefore, we propose to amend existing MOUs for the 2024-25 year to reflect the funding as previously. As such, for the Masterton District Council, Business Wairarapa proposes maintaining the current funding level for 2024-25, but with a view to discuss and negotiate an increase for the 2 subsequent years. So to clarify, that amount for 2024-25 being the status quo of 30,000, with a view to negotiating an increase for the 2 subsequent years, 25-26 and 26-27, of 60,000 each. As outlined in our LTP submission, Business Wairarapa's commitment to delivery includes, but is not limited to, the delivery of the critical activities that provide training and connection for our businesses, the continuation of a reduced cost training program, which is YHost, expansion of a free business helpline that offers free HR and employment legal advice to our businesses, continuation of the facilitation of our annual business summit, which attracts over 200 participants, and we bring in nationally recognised speakers to Wairarapa to deliver actual tangible tools and resources to our businesses, facilitation of the annual business awards, including increasing entries by at least 10% annually, celebrating the success and contributions of local business, and contribution to strategic discussions, and that is engaging with the business community to ensure that their perspectives are considered on initiatives related to business capability, investment and attraction, and most importantly, regular reporting to the councils to ensure transparency, accountability and alignment with mutual goals. I can't stress enough that Business Wairarapa takes action to achieve high returns on investment. With the support of councils and partnership of councils, we can continue to keep that momentum going and create connection between councils, local government, central government and our businesses. Our ecosystem is important and businesses are a big part of that. Businesses employ people, they create jobs, they inspire people to live here and contribute to growth. So we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Nicola. Any questions, Bess?
Hi Nicola, my name.
Yes.
Just a couple of questions. Well, first observation, you said your focus is on increasing your representation to 20%. I actually thought that was a bit low, but just saying that.
So currently we're about 600 businesses of the 6,500 businesses in Wairarapa. Now that includes farming businesses that are also an operator.
Okay.
We currently work as an umbrella with our sub-regional business organisations, so that's Featherston Business Engine, Go Carterton, Mantara Business Association, Tupuana Masterton, Māori in Business Wairarapa and Destination Wairarapa. But we are wanting to increase our representation to include, for instance, Wairarapa wine growers, federated farmers, etc.
Okay. But my question was, you mentioned a heightened demand for services. In particular, and I've got one more question after this, in particular, which services are you finding that there's more demand for?
In particular, I would say our YHost training program, which is soft skills capability in supervision, management, productivity skills. And also in terms of mentorship, businesses looking for coaching and mentorship. So we provide YHost, at a highly discounted rate to our businesses at about $150 for a half-day course as opposed to $800 for a half-day
Yeah, I believe it's very successful. And one more question. Primarily you're membership based. Of the revenue or funding that you do get, what percentage of that would be your membership fees?
We've actually reduced our membership fee because we believe in inclusivity. So what we propose, rather than businesses paying double and triple membership fees, we encourage our businesses to join their local or immediate association in the first instance, be it Tupuana Masterton or Go Carterton, thereby contribute to the resilience of their local community, and just with a $25 levy per business per annum, that is what Business Wairarapa receives.
Oh, okay.
So we've increased our representation, it's tripled, but we've reduced our revenue in order to be truly and honestly representative of businesses in Wairarapa.
Yeah, I understand that, and then that people aren't having to pay twice as
That's
well.
correct, but we're able to provide a higher level advocacy and training and capability. With a sound database, we're able to then pitch for government capability initiatives, which generally default to the metropolitan areas and central economic development agencies like Wellington NZ.
Yeah, and how many staff have you got now?
We don't have any staff. We are a volunteer board and I contract to the board, so I pay for my own office space, equipment, etc.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank
So
you.
everything goes to the businesses.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Gary?
Gary?
Hi, Nicola. Thanks for that. Nicola, just looking purely at Masterton, how many businesses in Masterton would be members of Business Forum?
It's about 120, is that at present? That's
We're about,
increasing.
well, I think we're just over 100, but there are a few more coming on board because we've just hired a new administrator as well for Tupu Ana Masterton, which is the Business Masterton Group. That sits under the Business Wairarapa organisation.
So the business administrator is here, not in Masterton?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a question for me. So if a new business opens in town, do you guys reach out to them or do they come to you?
We now have Tupu Ana Masterton created, so businesses are paying membership to Tupu Ana, which is paying for an administrator, also a contractor, to now reach out to those businesses. So prior we haven't had the capacity, and going back to the staffing, whilst we're an entity of one contractor, I see our team as being administrators and GMs of those sub-regional business associations, so we work collaboratively.
Thanks, Nicola. Any more questions? Right, thanks, Nicola.
Thank
Renee.
you.
Thanks.
We'll let you know the outcome of the application in the next fortnight.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Rightio. And next applicant, presenting Steve Sale from the Masterton Food Bank. Welcome, Steve.
Morning, everybody.
Morning, Steve. You've got 10 minutes,
10
7
minutes.
minutes to present, and 3 minutes for questions from members at the end. So the floor is yours, Steve.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for your time this morning. And I really appreciate, firstly, the support of the council in the past years for the food bank. I'm sure you all know quite well how the food bank operates, and obviously we've had assistance from you guys personally and some of our ordeals and activities over the years, which has been fantastic as well. I don't know if you've ever needed a food parcel. I did. I got made redundant in 2001. Was out of work for probably close to 18 months, and somebody actually offered it to me, and it was quite helpful. Those years have carried on like that. I've been a volunteer with the food bank for over 20 years, and just keep seeing the numbers growing year on year, unfortunately. And as you know, unless you've been hiding under a bush, these last 12 months have been pretty hard for people. Things like insurances, interest rates on mortgages keep going up, and people are feeling the pain. So we are finding now that there are a lot more homeowners even that are coming to us that are struggling, that perhaps have got higher incomes, that are really feeling the pinch, that haven't needed our services in the past. So there's certainly the demand for the food bank continues. Our grant application is actually relating to supporting our manager, Jenna, and she does a fantastic job coordinating the whole food bank. So she just runs it on a day-to-day basis, making sure that we've got enough volunteers to be able to meet the demands, making sure that we've got enough food and resources to supply food in the parcels as well. So really that's the purpose of the food bank. It's supporting Jenna, and that's what we're looking for funding for. We've been very fortunate that with COVID, MSD have given us significant funding, and that certainly helped to keep the shelves stocked through the COVID period. But that funding has dried up, and so but also the public have been really good. But if you look at the donations that we've received, they actually has dropped back as well over the last 12 months. Again, as people are finding cost of living just harder, they don't have so much money to give as well. So we are looking for other sources of funding, and the council being one of them, so hence our application.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hi, Steve. How are you?
It's good, thanks.
Just a couple of questions. Are your food bank recipients Masterton based?
Yes, strictly Masterton.
And most of them are through referrals as well, are they?
We do a lot of self-referrals, yes, but we
Yep.
have worked with agencies, yes. Yep. So,
And when you say the COVID supplement or the COVID money is gone,
yes,
do you get any central government funding?
that was the central government fund from MSD.
So you don't get any
that is-
other central government
no,
funding?
no.
So you're reliant then fully on,
On grants and donations.
great, and do you receive other funding from the likes of local funders such as Trust House, etc.?
Yes, we do. We apply for those grants.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
You'd almost need someone full-time applying for grants.
That's me, yeah.
Oh, that's you. No, that was all I wanted
No,
to
that's
know.
cool. Thanks, yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. Happy to mission seeking funding, yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for giving your own example, Steve. That really means a lot when someone presents. Do you ever get to crisis point for food where you don't have enough?
Look, we have come close, but in the past, when we've got to that situation, all we've needed to do is go to the media and say, you know, our shelves are nearly empty, and the public rally around and do come in with, you know, little bags of goodies or big donations as well. So now we've never got to the stage where we haven't had any food to give out. We're fortunate that the likes of Walter Finley, they took over from Breadcraft making bread. They donate twice a week to us for bread, for instance. New World, they did that supermarket promotion, and I think New World Masterton actually gained the most donations of the country, so that was fantastic to see the likes of them getting behind the food bank. And so that does help certainly in terms of resourcing the food bank, but you know, we're probably still spending $5,000 a month in purchasing food as well. So yeah.
And do you ever, it might be hard to say, but do the people who use the food bank, are they also contributors? Do you see examples of that?
Oh look, yes, we do see that from time to time where people say, you know, I've had a parcel from the food bank in the past and now I want to support you back. So yeah, most definitely, yeah. Yeah, so fantastic like that.
Thanks. Any more questions? Right, thanks Steve. We'll let you know the outcome of the application at the next fortnight.
I appreciate
Thanks
it.
for your
Thanks
time.
You too, thanks guys.
Right, our next applicant presenting is Joseph Gilliard from Cobblestones. Thank you, Joseph.
Good morning.
Probably heard the last introduction before, Joseph, but just in case you didn't, you've got 10 minutes to present, and 7 minutes to present, and then 3 minutes for questions from members at the end. So the floor is yours, Joseph.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. You probably know about us. I mean, we've been around for 50 odd years, and we really started in business by virtue of a community push at the time to preserve what was known and still is as the Haskell Stables. Our trust was formed by a combination of groups, Greytown Heritage, Rotary, and importantly each of the 3 councils. And since then each of the councils has contributed to our funding, hence why I'm here today. It's a continuation of a well-established process. Basically, the funding from the councils, and by the way, your representative is Brent Goodwin, who's good value from our point of view, cover our basic costs like rates, insurance and electricity. Basically it keeps our doors open. And we have a turnover of about 105,000 a year, and councils, at least in terms of what they've been, councils collectively have given annually for the last 3 years is about 1/3 of that. We get something about 30% of that. And basically it's essential that that funding come to us without being greedy about this at all. I'd have to say that Masterton Council, and for various reasons which I won't go into, the contribution from this council has slipped behind quite significantly. And of the total numbers of visitors we have, 30% of the visitors from Wairarapa come from this local authority. So without appearing to be greedy, the proportion of funding from Masterton Council has been fallen away quite significantly. Looking at the museum itself, we're a very well-run business. We have, in the last 5 years, been putting a lot of energy into revamping our exhibitions and our presentation, and this is working really, really well. It started off with the funding we had prior to Papa when COVID came along. They were quite generous in their funding, and we decided that we had to really up our game, because what we had there was interesting, but it was very tedious in terms of people coming to have a look. It looked quite rusty and nasty and needed interpreting. We hired three professionals who did a review of the museum and decided to revamp quite significantly, and we're working through that process right now. And part of that is a project we have underway right now for spending about $500,000 on 2 old sheds we've got. We've just achieved $200,000 from lottery, I might say against really strong competition. And so we're just tying up our funding with that at the moment. As part of that, and as a consequence of that project, we really have been pushing our relationship with Papawai Marae. This was an approach we had from Papawai about 4 years ago, and it's come into fruition now that the Wairapa Moana matter has been settled, and we're talking to Hiruini Amundsen and Paora and Sir Kim Workman to put together an MOU, or that's the way we're looking at it, and they too, to use part of our space as a presentation, like a main road presentation for Papawai Marae. And we're really excited about that because traditionally Cobblestones has seen itself as a colonial museum and with all the baggage which goes with that concept. And we want to really move away from that, and the offer basically on the table for Papawai is that they can have a segment of our front building to use as they might wish it to be used to tell the story they would like it to, they would like it to be told. We see this as exceedingly exciting, and I dare say long overdue. So basically, in a nutshell, Cobblestones has been here a long time. We plan to be here a long time. In that regard, actually, we've just signed a contract last year for our land. 70% of our land is owned by the Greytown Trustlands Trust, and we signed a lease for 99 years at $1 a year rental. So we're really pleased about that. That secures our position. It was quite worrisome for a while there because they wanted to charge us rent. And quite frankly, we couldn't have afforded to pay anything much in the way of rent. So we're on the front foot and going really well. So we would just like to think that Masterton Council could carry on supporting us in a maybe slightly better way than it has in the past. So, and a 3-year term agreement in MOU would be very exciting from our point of view because it just saves you and us having to get together every year. So thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? No, I've got a question. I'll beg you go first.
I was just, thank you for your presentation. I was just a bit confused. You mentioned that your turnover is around about 105k, and then you mentioned that the councils contribute a third of
30%, yeah.
of your cost, though, or does councils contribute 30% of that turnover? I was just a bit confused.
Yes, in total, councils contribute about 31,000, and that's included in the 105.
That's my question.
Sorry.
Okay, yes. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you very much. And that's great that you're doing that initiative with Papawai.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Joseph, are you getting much usage from Masterton schools coming to use Cobblestones?
Oh, absolutely. We've got a really wonderful front desk person, and she is in contact with all the schools, all the car clubs, this and so on, so on, so on. I mean, our bookings ahead for this year are something like about 25 groups, just as they stand at the moment. So yes, absolutely. As you probably know, we've got lovely grounds as well, so people come there. And the kids love it. They might not be interested in old flowers, but they love the green grass to run around on, and play in the jail and handball stuff and all that. So yes, and we bring in people who, for a day, transform themselves into being a school teacher or a blacksmith or a sheep shearer or something like that. So yeah, no, it works really well. Our motto is where history comes alive. We try and do that. And tomorrow, for example, we've got an open day koha entry. I mean, no cost if you don't want to pay anything. And we'll have all sorts of things going on.
Thank you. Kids like old flowers and tractors as well, apparently. Whatever.
Is there normally a cost to viewing what you've got?
Yeah, $10 for an adult entry, which I might say is much less than many people charge.
Any more questions? No. All right, thank you, Joseph. We'll let you know the outcome of the application in the next fortnight. Thank you for your time and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Right, our next applicant presenting is Louise Lee and Christine Curran. I hope I pronounced your name right, Christine, from Y Waste Incorporated. Thank you both. So welcome Louise and Christine. You have 10 minutes, 7 minutes to present and then 3 minutes for questions from members. The floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thanks again for the opportunity to speak to you all about, we always like to tell our story about what we do at Y Waste. So I'm not going to spend lots of time going through what we do because I think probably you do know, but put it simply, we recover surplus edible food that's at risk of going to waste for human consumption. So our work to capture food that's clearly good enough to eat for people to eat is very important, not just for its environmental benefits, but also for its ability to feed people experiencing food insecurity. In essence, I like to think that we offer an in the meantime solution to manage surplus waste and alleviate hunger. So we are seeking $25,000 in funding from the council per year for each of 3 years, and this is to help meet our ongoing operational costs. I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but food security is a real issue in New Zealand, and we have certainly seen this in terms of increasing demand for our services. As our submission shows, and the statistics there, if you like statistics, there has been a continued increase in the volumes of food that we have rescued and distributed, particularly over the last 2-3 years. So not just during COVID, but since COVID. During that time, we have also greatly increased the number of community organisations that we support who receive our food. In 2021 was around 14, and now we're up to 30 organisations. And we are certainly we're really pleased to be working with an increased number of food donors as well. In addition to supermarkets, in Masterton particularly, we work with a number of local producers who give us fresh produce, which is wonderful. And also we play a key role as the designated food hub for the New Zealand Food Network, and from them we receive on a weekly basis bulk food, pallets of food that we distribute once again to our community recipient organisations. It's really important to note that although we are Wairarapa wide, we operate as far north as Paeatua and down to South Wairarapa, our focus is Masterton, and this is reasonable because of course this is the largest population centre. So, for example, the Masterton Food Bank receives a third of the food that we deliver daily, on a daily basis, and that's equivalent to all of the food banks throughout the rest of the region. We also provide ongoing support pretty much on a daily basis to the community kitchen, which I'm sure you all recognise as a major Masterton social agency. So we expect demand for our services with the cost of living situation that we're facing at the moment to certainly at least, if not continue at the current level, but more likely at a higher rate. And I think another thing to take into account also is that organisations such as My Waste are playing an important role doing disaster relief and other disruptions when we get not only unexpected food surplus for a variety of reasons, but also potential increase in food insecurity. So we expect that that is going to be another growing role for us in the future. MDC funding contributes hugely to what we do. It makes a difference to help us meet this increase in demand and operational costs. So a little bit of a picture about our funding then, so you can see how it sits in the whole picture. So along with other food rescue organisations, during COVID we received funding from central government agencies, particularly MSD. That was short term and it finished last year. So as you'll see in the written submission, we've worked really hard to widen the breadth of our funding and also to try and increase the amount that we get from each of those sources. So I don't need to go through the list as I've provided that in the submission. I should also say, in addition to those funders, we are at the moment in the processes of applying to the Masterton District Council, to their Community Grants Fund, and we are also looking at the South Wairarapa Community Wellbeing Fund. So bringing those on board as well. And we've been very pleased with the amounts that we've been able to get from diversifying. But it's a 1 year, short term, not guaranteed, so obviously having something like 3 years where we've got some guarantee allows us to be more ambitious in what we do and plan as well. So, and in fact, just in a couple of weeks' time, we are revising looking at our strategic plan for the next 3 years. We've had one 21 to 24. So we're looking at, and some of the things that we're very interested in pursuing is things like recovery of venison from controlled operations, supporting local community composting in terms of our environmental goals, and maybe down the track food waste education as well. We do that already, but thinking about how we might maybe expand or work in partnership with others. So you might ask, how will this benefit us? The money will benefit us because we'll be able to keep doing what we're doing and increase and be more ambitious about what we want to do. Our main costs, as you would expect, are salaries and rent. And we are a lean operation. We run with less than 2 full-timers, really just over one. It's 1 1/4 full-time staff and a very a dedicated team of 24 volunteers at the moment. We are a 5-day business, so we are collecting, distributing food on a 5-day basis. So what does this mean for the community? Well, we believe we know our work benefits the wider community in a number of ways. Of course, we contribute to social good by feeding people that need food. But there's broader social benefits. And in fact, research that was done recently along with AFRA, which is the Aotearoa Food Rescue Alliance, said that the social return on food rescuers for every dollar spent is a $4.50 return. And that's a conservative measure. So it serves, so what does it do? As well as giving...
You're going into your question time now, just to let you know.
Oh, all right, okay. Well, I shall just leave it there and say that I'm sure that I put some of the things in the submission about the social benefits, but saying we've been very grateful for the money that the council has given us in the past 3 years, and we would very much appreciate them looking favourably on our request for the next 3 years.
Squeeze some questions in as well.
Yeah.
Right, thanks.
Hi, thank
Hi.
you so much. Just a question, you mentioned food bank and you mentioned community kitchen.
Yeah.
Could you just give me an idea of who perhaps your other recipients are?
Yep. So we also give to the Safer Communities Trust. We support the Ruth Project, which is based in Masterton, Pacifica o Wairarapa. We give to the Wairarapa Women's Refuge. We give to at least one, if not two, of the church groups that provide the evening meal on the community meals on the Monday night. Basically, they make food with what we provide.
And
Yeah.
just of the schools for their
Schools,
breakfast programmes
yeah.
as well. And you call the resource centre
Red Cross.
We're doing things through Red Cross.
Is that where the resource centre get their bread?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a follow-up question if I may?
You're welcome.
So, because you know how food bank have individual families
Yeah.
and individual people that are referred,
Yeah.
you're mainly dealing with organisations and
Only.
groups, and
We
then
don't
it's
deal with
their
any
responsibility to
Yeah.
distribute. Okay, my next question is, do you ever run out of food?
We
We ration it. We
Yeah.
manage it.
We have to base out what we give out on what we have on that particular
okay.
day.
So you know each day who you're going to be giving,
Yes.
who you're working with and giving to,
Yes.
So
and
yes.
then it's how much you've got is how much you distribute to those groups that
Yeah.
you're dealing with.
Yeah,
So
and we
Masterton-
have a warehouse.
The
I mean,
Masterton Food Bank's probably the only place that gets a daily delivery from us.
Mm.
Everyone else, it's like once a week, they have a slot that they come and they collect from us.
Okay.
So we make up parcels of both the ambient food that comes from the Food Network, plus the fresh produce that we are collecting on a daily basis from the supermarkets.
and stuff we freeze, because we have
Yes,
freezers.
yeah, we've got walk-in
chillers.
freezers and chillers, so we
Yeah.
did manage that out.
And I gather, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're getting support from all the supermarkets now, are you?
We're still to get support from the ones in the South Wairarapa.
Oh, no, I mean
Yes,
Masterton.
all the
Yeah,
Masterton
yeah.
ones, yes, including
Yeah.
We're Wilson's as well.
Point pack and say,
Okay.
yeah,
So
it's great.
we have a full van that comes back from Pack and Save and Countdown, and then it's a second run to go out to New World and get stuff from there. So,
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Any more questions? Gary?
Yeah, thanks so much. You said your focus is on Masterton and more than the other places, but I take it too that the support you get from businesses is generally from Masterton businesses as well. So Masterton would be your biggest supporters?
I have to say that actually direct support from businesses is something that we are actually just talking about strategic plan, and again, widening our financial stability and looking out to the business community to support us. I think that's something that we see, Louise and I, as something to work to, both in terms of fundraising, maybe activities, but also maybe getting sponsorship.
But food donations is mainly from Masterton. We do work with the Carterton New World in terms we're rescuing food from them. But some of the, like in, as you probably know anyway, in Martinborough, the food bank there has a relationship with Payne and Kershaw, and we don't want to step on any relationships that are already existing, and they're working well.
Really, you're mainly a Masterton-centric business, really, aren't you?
At the moment,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, any more questions? Right, thank you, Louise and Christine, and we'll let you know the outcome of your application in the next meeting.
Thanks very much. Thanks for your time.
Oh, so we don't hear other.
It doesn't look like, because
So Rick from Digital Seniors, isn't it?
mine, by the looks of it, we do have suggestions.
Well, seeing as you're here, Sebastian, we'll get you in now.
Always pays to be early in life.
So, we'll help you.
Happy to seize the moment.
So, well, Sebastian is from the Lifelight Trust. You've got 10 minutes, Sebastian, 7 minutes to present, and then 3 minutes for questions from members at the end.
Lovely.
The floor's all yours.
Kia ora. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to say thank you for all the previous support we've had from you, which has been just wonderful. and appreciate the opportunity to ask for a little bit more. So what I'd love to do, I'm from the Life Flight Trust. I'm the Head of Fundraising and Communications at the base. Love to give you a little project update about a really important and major project that we've been working hard on that's already making a difference right at this very minute. Actually, our air ambulance plane has just touched down at Hood, and now that the wonderful runways reopen, we're actually, I believe, touched down at 11:30 helping somebody. So it's part of a big project that we've been working on, which I'd love to share with you. So before I do that, I was reminded of a little story which I just wanted to recount briefly. I've got a young family, so the children and babies that we fly is the part that really motivates me. A quarter of the people that we fly are sick babies and sick children. It's a big part of the service that we provide here in Masterton and the wider region by our Westpac rescue helicopter and our planes. So this was a situation where we got a call out around about midnight. We're 24/7, so we have, like a fire station, we have bedrooms out the back, we have people on base ready to fly at a moment's notice. This was a particularly urgent one. Some parents were eagerly awaiting the birth of their twins, but they got the shock of their life when those twins came 6 weeks early. Premature, tiny little bubbas, needing intensive care quickly. They were on a rural property a little bit east of here, towards Castle Point. We can be here in about 23 minutes in our Westpac helicopter, so we got the team up and running within minutes, got here quickly. We managed to locate their property with the night vision goggles, land on a paddock nearby, they're shepherds, so there was a handy landing pad, big wide open field right next door to their house, which we were able to land on. And these lovely little twins, Carmen and Mariah, this was some years ago, they were brought out, it's a bit of a dark photo, but they were sort of wrapped in hivers, whatever they had to hand. We quickly and carefully put them in an incubator. We flew them to intensive care. And some years on, this is them turning 5, starting at Tanui School, or Whareama School I should say, and they're fabulous, they're 100%. So that's the sort of call out where life flight's the only option. It's full intensive care. There's high-tech equipment needed. In this case, we call the baby incubators the spaceship. They weigh 150 kgs, totally necessary to keep these little babies safe. And we got them to the best people in the country in a matter of minutes. Access, speed, medical care was basically the trifecta that was needed to save them. So that's what we're trying to do day in, day out. On average, our phone's ringing more often than ever. We're getting a call out around about every 5.2 hours, 24/7 at the moment. You'll see in our submission, we've had about a 23% increase over the last year. We're on track for another 25% increase this year. And we've launched a big project to meet that need. And we saw that coming many years ago, and we've been working really hard to make sure that we can step up, to leave no call unanswered. And particularly the side of our operation that's been getting more and more need is the plane side of our operation. While the Westpac Rescue Helicopter, we call that part of our team the poster child or the show pony, if we're being a little bit mean. The plane team call themselves the backbone. So for every one person that we fly in the helicopter, and it's such necessary and important work, we fly about 3 people in our planes, and that's going up to more like 4 and soon 5. So it's really necessary. Westpac Chopper's amazing when you've got a paddock that needs to be landed in, or you're a car accident victim on the side of the road, or you're on a sinking ship. A plane is fantastic when you need a pressurised environment, especially for some of the little babies we fly. That's the difference between life and death. For a Benz victim, for a stroke victim, for a heart attack victim, for a longer flight if you need a surgeon in Middlemore, that's where the planes are amazing. We've got a bit more space on the planes. We can fly whānau with our patients alongside them. Really important for well-being, or if decisions need to be made underway, we can fly a bigger medical team and keep patients stable and even alive with a bit more room. So our planes are wonderful. But some years ago, we had these aging, what we called our J32s. They were 30 years old, these 2 planes. We didn't have enough of them. They were starting to let us down on maintenance, and it was time to really take the next big step forward for life flight. So we launched a big project, and we've got some great friends in the Royal Flying Doctor Service in Australia who are amazing. They're Australians, but they're very, very friendly. You'd be surprised. They help us out a great deal. They're like Coca-Cola to us. They have 80 aircraft. But they had to get rid of 3 fantastic pre-loved planes for a fraction of what they'd cost new. And one of these planes right now is on Hood helping somebody. And the reason we chose this model, it's called a King Air, is we wanted to do it safer, faster, and even more efficiently, and really with that patient care at the forefront, provide an even better service. These planes are amazing. They can fly in a wider range of weather conditions. They can fly faster, higher, a little bit more cheaply, and they can land on rougher terrain. So they're designed to land in the desert. That's been super handy while Hood Aerodrome's been being resurfaced. We've been able to, for the most part, apart from most recently when it's got a bit boggy for us, we've been able to keep that vital air link going. Obviously, we much prefer tarmacs. We appreciate the investment. We're aviators, so we love airports. But, you know, we've been able to keep it going. And there's a number of small airstrips up in Dannevirke and other places where those communities have previously been excluded from air ambulance services. We can now help them. And we can land in places like your local runway when the runway's shut. So we can help more people more equitably and try and sort of undo that postcode lottery that you'll be well aware of in New Zealand, where certain locations are just better off than others. It's totally free to those we fly. That's really important for us. And we can also fly heavier patients, so up to 240 kgs now per patient. It's a big challenge for the health service in New Zealand. Kiwis are getting heavier, they're getting sicker because of it, and a lot of those heavy or simply wide people are excluded from air ambulance services at the moment. We thought that's not good enough, and we've got this amazing little articulating loading arm which you can see up here, custom made and designed by the Royal Flying Doctors. We've purchased it off them. And what used to take 3 or 4 people huffing and puffing can now, young Harry, he's fairly slight, he can do it with a touch of a button now and just guide it in with this brilliant loading arm, 240 kgs. And so that's for big, heavy patients, but also for our tiniest patients, little baby here in an incubator, while the baby might only weigh 500 grams. That whole kit and caboodle was 150 grams, 150 kgs. So where that comes into play, we had a young man the other day, he's 6'8". It's not his fault he's 200 kgs, he's just a big boy. He had to get to Wellington Hospital really fast. Too heavy for our helicopter, too heavy for our old planes, but with our new planes we can do it. And it's been really exciting having that come into play. It's intensive care in the air, full intensive care on board from the moment life flight turns up, just as good as you get in the ICU in Wellington Hospital or the NICU. And on average we're getting called out to wad it up about 4 times a week on average. For Masterton residents, it's about twice a week, particularly for the residents here. Excuse me, I'll just leave that. And it's a number that's growing. So we've put a huge effort in. We've raided our piggy bank. We've almost entirely depleted our reserves to buy these planes. We've done a massive fundraising campaign to do so. We've had incredible support from all sorts of different sponsors, funders and donors. But we still need to keep it flying. And we've got a shortfall for Masterton residents of around about $400,000, about $380,000 we're forecasting this financial year. We've invested in the aircraft. We're looking for some help to keep them flying. And having a 3-year opportunity with yourselves would just be amazing for us. Long-term planning is the big difference for us between being efficient and being hand-to-mouth. When we can plan long-term, it makes a massive impact for investing in spare parts, booking and maintenance, etc. So we really appreciate the support. We'd love to keep it going. We get amazing support from the entire community here, from corporate right through to families and others. And I'd love any questions, so thanks for the opportunity.
Right, Bex.
Please.
Thanks. What a great presentation. I love the personal touch.
Thank you.
Question. Today we've had lots of funding applications, and the increase or the request and increase is mainly due to the cost of inflation.
Yes.
You're saying you're expecting an increase in services and in fact had an increase in demand as well, which obviously isn't due to inflation. Why do you think there's been an increase in the use of your services?
So it's a bit of a perfect storm for us of several things. One is population increase. So I see the region here has had a 10% increase in population over X amount of years. Those things translate into a percentage increase in the number of call-outs for us too. There's also an ageing population. This is a real slow burn, but Kiwis are getting a little bit older, and that's causing health complications.
Yeah. There's
also health issues which are intensifying, like obesity, which I just spoke about, or even bariatric, which is intense obesity. Those things are on the increase, and the health service is contracting. So where previously, you'll know how hard it is to get intensive care nurses and doctors or specialist surgeons to New Zealand and keep them here. Where previously you might have been able to go to 3 or 4 major centres in New Zealand, For some things, there's only 1 or 2 people in the country that can do that thing that your daughter needs or that your partner needs, and that person might be in the middle more. So the health service is contracting more and more. So a bit of a perfect storm for us.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you.
Thank you. You said that we mentioned Dannyburg.
Yes.
How far is your area?
So our heartland would be sort of a 2-hour drive around Wellington, that lower North Island, a little bit of the upper South Island, that's our heartland. Wairarapa is one of the main places that we fly, so a large percentage of our call-outs are to right here. Beyond that, we'll go where's needed. So because we're specialists in flying basically the sickest or the most hurt people in the country, that could take us to anywhere. During the cyclones, we went straight up to the East Coast. During the horrible shootings in Christchurch, we went down there with plane and helicopter immediately. Earthquakes the same. So in any given day, we can go anywhere, but the vast majority of our flights are within a stone's throw of here.
Gary?
Yeah, thanks for the great presentation. You're talking about services here in Masterton being on average twice a week.
Yes.
Which is over 100 a year.
Yes.
And that's growing, you say?
It is. Yes. So
it's a big number, isn't it?
It is. And for the Wairarapa region as a whole, I believe last financial year we had 196 residents from the wider region, and 102 of those were Masterton residents, if I've got the numbers right. Both of those numbers are growing.
Thank you.
Right, thank you, Sebastian, for your presentation. That's excellent. We'll let you know the outcome of the application in the next fortnight. Thank you for the work you do in our community.
Look, thanks for the opportunity. I know you get a lot of requests. Appreciate the opportunity. Take care.
Right. We'll just change the schedule a little bit. The digital seniors are here.
Sorry, apologies.
That's right, you can jump right in.
To be fair, I could blame Chris, but it's not Chris at all, it was me. Morning, I'm from Digital Seniors. So I've done a couple of printouts that I didn't want to print too much stuff and waste too much paper, but I'll give you a couple. So,
Rick and Chris, you've got 10 minutes, so 7 minutes for the presentation, then 3 minutes for questions at the end. It's worked perfectly because you guys are here early.
yeah, so very informal, but I just start off. So I've been with Digital Seniors now for about 5 or 6 months. I just do 12 hours a week, part-time, and Rhonda, the other co-lead, does 18 hours a week. So effectively, since 2018, we've been in the Wairarapa. Nationally, we've moved into Auckland now and Kapiti as well. So we are trying as much as possible to take the model and move it to other places. And I guess in its most simplest form is what we are trying to provide is a point of contact where seniors who have any issues with any type of digital device can bring it along and get some help. And it kind of is a strange phenomenon where you can spend $1,000 or $2,000 on a device somewhere and you kind of walk out of it and then you go home and you just can't quite remember what to do and how it works. And then quite often you might be fortunate enough to have a family member who's around, but quite often family members, you probably realise, they're not the best people to deal with, to explain things, particularly to older people. So it's a situation where you have no option but to use digital devices for almost everything nowadays. It's just the way the world is. And what we're finding is that people really, they don't often want to go back to the shops, or if they go back to the shops, that the person doesn't have the time or the empathy to really explain things or deal with them. So the next step might be a family member, even if that's possible, or a friend, but ultimately the pool is quite shallow for people that will have the time and energy to spend with you. So what we do is provide a unique kind of one-to-one support system, and even within that, and that's why I asked Chris to come along, because I thought it'd be quite helpful, is we deal with literally someone who can't turn the phone on at all, so they spent $1,000 on a phone, or they can turn it on but they don't know how to do any of it, right up. No, it's not Chris.
Chris has had that problem.
But we've advanced. So what you have lots of people that fall into that category that really struggle, and you've got people that really just need to be able to use Skype or some form of communication, which is crucial for a lot of people live separate lives now, so families are all over the place. So Skype is crucially, or Zoom, crucially important for those communications. But then the interesting thing is you then also have people like Chris who are actually participating in a lot of activities and areas in their own time, but actually don't quite understand well enough how to use the technology in order to participate. So there's a whole huge variety of people that have different needs, but I guess ultimately, unfortunately, there just isn't anyone else. Senior Net closed down. They were here at some point, I think, till last year. But ultimately, you can go to a library, and Masterton Library, I have to say, fantastic, and we get a lot of support from them. But ultimately, they don't provide a one-to-one service, and they can't really provide a one-to-one service. So we run hubs throughout the Wairarapa, but just specifically with Masterton, and just roughly the idea is, so in terms of what we're doing in the numbers, we did financial year 23 to 24, we helped 1,536 seniors. We did 300 hubs, we did nearly 300 home support calls, we did 1,600 volunteering hours. Predominantly, Masterton is 64%, so it makes up a big chunk of the people that we help and support. Although we do and we try to be, we have a 0800 number, we have a website, so we try to be able to, at least if nothing else, talk to people and help them, with where to go if we can't help them. But ultimately, we'll either try and use a home visit to get to them, or we will try to encourage them to come to a hub. We also now run hubs in Masterton. I'm just talking about Masterton, in Wairarapa Village, in Masonic Village, in Lansdowne Park, and Kandahar Village. So again, because people can't get to us, we will try and reach them. But I would say it's a hugely invaluable service for those people, because some people only need 20 minutes, but some people need considerably longer than that. So yes, so it's a whole myriad of things that we deal with. But ultimately, what I would say as well is I've noticed our hubs have been really busy in the last 3 or 4 months, and I suspect because of the economy, the people on the lower end of the socio-economic background, they're coming to us saying, how can I change my phone plan? How can I change my internet plan? Am I paying too much money? Because they need advice and they need help, and they really don't have anyone else to go to. And to be honest, banks and big organisations can say that we look after these people, but I'm telling you the truth is they don't really, and it's really difficult. Either you've got to go to a bank on a certain day, or you can't go to the bank at all, and you're in a call centre environment and you're phoning up. And we literally have seniors sat with us, they're phoning and we're trying to help them, and then the bank are getting quite difficult because they can hear someone in the background and they don't want to speak to a third party. So nothing is really very easy for seniors who need help with technology. It just has become this way now, mainly through making profits and everything else that goes with the world that we live in. So I guess at the end of the day, if we're not providing this service, I really have no idea, for the most part, who is going to support people. So am I anywhere close to 7 minutes?
You've got 14 seconds.
14 seconds. I'll just let Chris add anything else in that he would like to.
9 seconds, Chris.
It's just so true.
Go fire away, Chris.
It's just so true. They really are a lifeline. I just can't get it, and I guess it's so difficult to get that across to people who have just grown up with all that new technology. It's like a foreign land. But anyway, I'm a forever student, I think, with these guys, and Rick's a really good team. Well, they all are.
Yeah, thanks.
Sorry.
Hi, I'm Bex. I've just got some questions.
Sure.
I've got 3 questions actually. Do you get funding from the other 2 councils?
We apply for funding and we have got some funding. So I think historically, I'm not sure about South Wairarapa, Carlton have. So yes, and we apply, and I've been more proactive, obviously, with the economic climate. So we are applying for basically, because we support all libraries and councils. Yeah.
And you said you had 2 part-time staff and 22 volunteers.
Yeah.
So what are your operating costs?
Yeah, so basically the finances which I sent in, we're talking about for the year about 70k overall is our for the Wairarapa.
Yeah, and that's the funding that you require?
Well, we've asked for 15k, but that's our total funding package. 70k supports the staff, and mileage is quite expensive, so we're looking at, because we try and do home visits, so like up to 10k in home visits. So effectively to support and obviously the website and our 800 number, that's national, but specifically for the Wairarapa, our funding required is about 70k in order to continue.
And the third question is, do you also get support from the likes of Lands Trust, Trust House, other local?
Again, we apply. So last year we didn't from Trust House. We have just received something from Trust House. So relatively speaking, the amounts that we're getting are a lot lower than they were, because that's the nature of the business. So the problem with the grants is they all tend to come in a 3 or 4 month period, and you don't necessarily get notification. So the ones I've applied for, you don't. I know Trust House, but Masterton Lands Trust, for example, I don't know whether we're going to get anything or not. So.
And the other question is your service completely free?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we spend, and that's the other thing is, people like Chris, I wouldn't, in a very nice way, who I call, not to their face, repeat offenders. They come back, and so at the end of the day, if Chris he's definitely takes time, which is fantastic, but he might come back for 10 or 20 hours potentially, maybe even longer. Some people come in with their phone for 1 hour, so it's a whole. But at the end of the day, if they want ongoing support, we don't help people with businesses, and we don't help with kind of personal finances or anything to do. So it has to be a person with a need because they have an issue, and for the most part that is. So we're quite strict because we don't have the resources to help people in any other capacity, and it wouldn't be fair to use our resources for other people. So 100% free however we do it.
Right, thank you.
Any more questions? Just checking, you're the only service of the kind in the whole of Wairarapa now?
Yeah, so since SeniorNet closed, which I think is a year or so ago, there isn't anyone else providing free one-to-one. The libraries, and REAP, we work with Masterton and REAP, so we have a space in there as well helping. They do the odd course and things, but they don't do one-to-one.
And just one other question. You talked about how our children and everything will grow up or are growing up with computers and technology, right? Are you not seeing the gap closing between those that know and those that don't, because 50-year-olds are turning into 60-year-olds, etc., etc.?
Yeah, kind of you are, but the problem is now there's so many scams, and within AI, even the goalposts are moving behind the technology. So one thing is, yes, things move all the time, and also, and I'm sure it's because of the economic situation, there's a huge amount of scams out there, and the problem is older people who are not really comfortable, and I would say if you're over 55, 60, you may not be really comfortable, is you don't really want to do anything, so you just get bombarded with scams and emails and those sorts of things. So yes, I guess you could say that, but then if you have AI technology moving in as well, then it's quite hard. But a lot of people, I think, you just have a huge chunk of the population of that age who just don't really want to do anything with it because they're afraid of all of it. So even to communicate, they've got to be able to put an app on their phone. So how do you put an app on your phone? You've got to go to the Play Store and you've got to make sure you get the right one. But to do that, you have to have a Gmail account or an iPad. It's unfortunately it's just not simple to even help people with what you think is a simple problem. It gets quite complicated quite quickly. So it's just one of these things where even to set someone up once could take you 2 or 3 hours, and that's fine, but there's lots of people that fall into that category. So.
Okay, thank you.
Things are just changing all the time. They're just, you think you're on top of it one day and then change them.
Thank you for your presentation. Where are you based?
So Officially, Carlton Event Centre, that's just our postal address, but effectively we run out of all the libraries. So we have a really strong relationship with Masterton Library, with Paul and, sorry, I forget their names, and we're doing Dora Bus with them and other things. So we work really closely with primarily libraries, but if Featherstone, for example, don't have a library, we work out of their community centre. So similarly in Martinborough, we work out of Reap House now. So we try to connect with as many groups of people and help out. So really quickly, New World closed down their phone orders completely not that long ago. Lots of issues with that. So we work with Lisa, who's your senior elder person type thing. So we communicate. So if there's a problem, we will go to the care homes and try and help these people, because if you can't buy shopping online and you can't get to shops and they won't take your card over the phone now, you have a huge problem. And I used to work in care homes, and you know, I would really like to see them funding some of this stuff, but they don't, and that might be a bridge too far for some of them. But there's a lot of people in care homes who get no support because the staff are already stretched just looking after their general care. So yeah, there's a lot of people ultimately that kind of need help.
Right, thank you, Rick and Chris. So we'll let you know the outcome of education in the next fortnight.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Apologies for my lateness.
That's right, it's worked perfectly. So now we'll have a break after these guys, because there's a break that's coming up anyway. So we've got Dave. So our next applicant presenting is Dave Rose and his group from the Riverside Lifesaving Club. So welcome, Dave.
Thank you all. My name's Dave Rose. I'm Chairman of the Riversdale Beach Surf Lifesaving Club. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come in here today. With me over here is Charlie Caldwell from Surf Lifesaving New Zealand, and to my right is Mike Taylor, who's club captain of our club.
So you've got 7 minutes to present,
Yep.
and then 3 minutes for questions.
Cool. So once again, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. In our application, we would like to ask that the funding is for the wages for the regional lifeguard service over this summer, 24-25. We would like to request a 3-year term, if that's at all possible. It means that we can get our house in order every year. We know where we're going. And we would like to request, which is the amount we've had for the last 3 years, is 40,000 plus GST for each of those years. Now, in saying that, we'd like to note that in asking for this amount, it's not actually the cost. Our cost last year was 65,000, and I've got documents here which I handed out last time. You're more than I can leave them with you. So we would be forced to reduce the level of services if we only got 40,000. So that would mean that the South End patrol, we've got 2 patrols at the beach, North End and South End, we would not be able to patrol in the mornings at the South End, which is getting busier because of the development at the back of Riversdale on the hills. The South End is getting busier, but we would have to cut our cloth accordingly. So that would mean that we would tell the community that the South End Patrol would not be operating in the mornings if we only had $40,000. So getting to the summary, which you all would have received from me, it talks about ourselves as Riversdale. Our lifeguards, we're all trained, all the lifeguards are trained in first aid, CPR, AED, spinal recovery, rescue techniques. Our statistics tell a story of a very busy surf beach. We've got 22 kilometres of coastline to patrol. It's the busiest in terms of patrol hours, preventative actions and rescues and first aids in the Lower North Island. So we're a busy beach. Just to clarify, a preventative is when a lifeguard intervenes when they think a swimmer is in danger, drifting towards a rip or out of their depth or not coping. So we act on these preventatives, and as Mike would know, we are better to have a lot more preventatives than actual rescues. So when I presented last month, Councillor Helena that was here asked me why the MDC should support us, which was a very valid question. And I answered because of the work we do in Riversdale and in the wider community. We are the first responders for accidents and emergency and incidents. We get there first to a patient and we give vital life support and intel to the Wellington Free Ambulance and Westpac Rescue when they get there, which is normally between 40 and 45 minutes until they get to one of our incidents. We're the support for the Royal Fire in terms of treatment for victims as needed. We're the operational base at the beach for foreign emergency. New Zealand Police, Wairarapa Search and Rescue. So when the balloon goes up, our building, our facility becomes the hub. We're the facility for Surfing for Farmers, which is such a cool initiative, and we really love being involved with Surfing for Farmers, plus other numerous community council groups and organisations that use our building. 210 kids went through the NIPA program last year over summer, and we had 19 schools and colleges beach education. We're currently booked for 15 currently, and we've got a limit of about 20, depending on Mike and how many guards he can roust up. So the regional lifeguard service, which is what we're talking about here today, provides a much needed patrol service. It provides a vital role in supporting the wider community in terms of injury and accidents. It's also a hub and a base for all the events at Riversdale Beach and is there to support the whole coast in terms of danger and threat. Now with me today is Mike Taylor. I don't know whether any of you have met Mike. He's our club captain of 22 years. He's a life member. He's a senior first aid responder, a senior instructor and examiner for the Central Region and a past volunteer for New Zealand, the Surf Life Saving New Zealand. Now we get a little bit embarrassed about all this, but Mike just does things. It's in his DNA. That's what Mike does. So I'd like to finish up now. I'd like once again to thank you for the opportunity to be here. But Mike and his team of surf lifeguards have saved dozens of lives in the last 15 years. Lives that have been in our community, in Riversdale, Homewood, Tanui, Castle Point. So any questions today, please direct them at Mike. He is, as we often say, he's the coalface and he is what represents our club. So thank you very much, and I'd welcome any questions, but Mike would be more than happy, if not a little bit nervous, about answering any of them.
Thanks.
Thank you again.
Gary? Yeah, thanks, Dave. As usual, great work from you guys. I mean, we don't need to tell you that. It's amazing. But it's interesting for me, and maybe I shouldn't ask this because you're not asking for more, but you're talking about the funding staying, you're applying for funding staying as it is, but you're saying that if we do that, then you're going to have to reduce services.
That's right, Gary.
The actual easy question for me to ask is, why didn't you ask for more?
I'm appreciative of the fact that you guys have got a pretty tough calls to make as a council, and we appreciate the level of support we get from you. But by the same token, I know that there's equally community groups. The previous presentation was, what a cool resource to have in the Wairarapa. So I know that there's groups out there. It cost us $65,000 to run our service last year in terms of wages, and we can peg it back. Absolutely we can, but it will come at a cost of what we can provide on the beach. We have to be honest. We can only do what with the money we've got, and so the South End is a busy place for the beach, as Mike would know. It's getting busier all the time, but we can't do everything. Sorry.
No, when you finish, I'm just next.
Sorry, Gary, does that answer?
The question I'd asked them, in an ideal world, you would have asked for 65,000.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks again.
That's all right, Bev.
Just a question was, I know that Surf Lifesaving has had better acknowledgement and support from centrally.
Absolutely.
Nationally. What is that money going towards?
That money, well, Charlie can answer part of it. That money is primarily, Bex, is operational funding. So it was clearly tagged by the government that it can't be used for wages. They've tagged that it can't be used for sport either. So none of that funding can be used. We're not a big sports club at all, but if you've got a club like Lyall Bay and Wellington that have huge big surf boats, they can't use any of that funding for sport funding. It's all around operational. It's around the infrastructure to keep the clubs at the level of service that they need to be. So our club, for instance, is pretty close to the beach, which the 72 clubs in New Zealand are. We get hammered in all conditions. We're currently going through a funding process next year where we need more room. We're getting more requirements for rescue equipment. We will, part of that money that you've spoken about, the government will come forward for that. They will help us out with that funding, which is outstanding.
So it's more resources as well?
Absolutely. There's probably 5 clubs in New Zealand that got hammered in Cyclone Hale and Gabriel last year, and I think 3 of them, Charlie, still aren't operational.
The government funding was made very clear that they see the support for the paid lifeguard service, which Dave was proceeding of today, to be at local council level. So it's for running Dave's club, keeping the lights on and operational equipment and capital expenditure, mainly infrastructure, which we got a bit hammered during Gabriel, but it's been
Okay.
made clear that they see the responsibility with the service which we're doing our submission on today to be sitting with local council as it is right across the whole of the bottom half of North Island.
Yeah. Again, just a follow-up question. You talked about not being able to do the south
End.
patrol.
Yes.
So will there be signs up though to indicate that it's just an afternoon thing, or it's just, or it's not patrol?
Yes. What we will have to put out in the community pub and the community newsletter that we have to say that we won't be patrolling, because we obviously don't want people down on the beach when we're not there. We will patrol in the afternoons, Beck, so we'll be there in the afternoon, but we will have to make sure that we will put enough information out there, and we'll probably go down there, Mike, every half an hour in the quad.
Every hour, yeah. And also, we do put these swim safe notices out, so, and with our surf agreement each year, it itemises our hours on the beach, so that is available on the websites as well.
So we'll do our best to tell everyone we won't be
I
there.
know, but you always get idiots. Well, you know what I mean. I'm just saying that people, when we have it all the time, we have signs, no dumping, no tipping, no rubbish, no, you know what I mean. You
It
always
is like a mountain though, you are allowed to swim wherever you like. We just recommend that the best place to swim is in between the flags.
Yeah, but I'm just saying if people are aware that a certain area is
We
not
will, we will put out enough information to say that we won't be there, you know, but it will be a shame, because we're trying to give back to the beach and give back to the community and everyone that lives and visits the beach.
So can I just ask one more question?
Sorry.
So what percentage of your operating expenses, for want of a better expression, what percentage are you reliant on grants and funding?
We're reliant in terms of replacement of our equipment and upkeep of our equipment. So that's where a lot of our money goes. We've just, Mike broke a boat the other day, a motor, not his fault.
Would it be like 70% or what?
So you're talking, if you took our whole club, just so I get right here, Beck, so you're talking about the whole club and what percentages
Yeah, like do you get money from the other councils?
in the Wairarapa?
Yeah.
No.
Do you ask them for money from the other
We
councils?
have. We asked for Masterton and they said no, but this was a number of years ago.
And do you get money from likes of Trust House and
Yes, we get money from Trust House. We get about
Eastern and Central? Do you?
$8,500 to run our NIPA program,
Yeah.
and also Lands Trust help us with the NIPA program. Eastern and Central have supported us in the past for new motors and new boat, new IRBs, and a full setup's about $30,000 for an IRB, trailer and a motor. So yes, we do go to other trusts to get that. So
Okay.
yeah.
No, I just wondered. Thank you.
That's all right.
Great. Well, thank you, Dave, Mike and Charlie, for your presentation and the work you did. It's fantastic. So
Sure.
we'll let you know in the next fortnight the outcome of your application.
Okay. Thank you. Now, as I said, I handed out these last time. I'll leave them here if they're not required, but they're the two applications I put through last time, which has all the facts and figures, etc.
If you leave them there, Dave.
That'll be great. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn.
So you guys, we'll have a break until 12 o'clock, and then the next presentation will be it's supposed to be 11:55, but we'll give ourselves 15 minutes. Thanks, everyone.
A comment I'll make about our sort of first responding is that Wairarapa Free Ambulance use us under memorandum of understanding, which then gives them approximately a 10 to 15 minute response time, which would be absolutely impossible without us being out there.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, David.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Right, welcome back everyone. So our next applicant presenting is Donna Gray and Tracy Graham from the Athena Community Hub. So welcome Donna and Tracy and...
And we've got Joanna.
And Joanna.
And Joanna, thank you. So you've got 10 minutes, so 7 minutes to present and then 3 minutes for questions at the end. So the floor is all yours.
Kia ora. Thank you very much for letting us speak on behalf of Te Awhina. And thank you for your past help. We always appreciate, what council does for us as an organisation and, what reflects in our community. And we just want to continue doing the mahi that, we've done for 10 years and are known for. And we can't do it without support, It's just how it is. We need you to give us money. So Joanna is employed as my assistant.
Because Donna got too busy.
And so Jo's amazing.
I don't know, but I just want to say a few words about how I've felt working with Donna and our place in the scheme of things. And I've just noticed how important it is to have somebody like Donna in the community and the organisation behind you, with our founders chairperson now, is we kind of link people, and there are things that happen to people that there is nobody else out there that can help them. And when there is, obviously Donna gets in touch with them, but it's that linking of things and helping people that get into a sudden situation, and there's just nobody out there that can immediately help them but us.
Well, we've had a situation this morning.
Give us some examples.
And other things.
With Food Bank, So this morning, we had a mama ring up. They had no kai last night. Her 2 children have gone off to a after school, during the holidays with no breakfast. And I said to her, Food Bank's policy now is that the organisations can't do referrals. And I said, you have to go and do it yourself. And she said, well, I've got COVID. She said, and I can't go out. And I'm like, okay. Joe, what are we going to do? We're off to, our meeting here. And anyway, so we rang, we talked to Food Bank, asked them what their new policy was for getting kai out to our whānau, and they don't have a plan. Oh, you'll have to do it. I said, but you don't want agencies. Well, Joe did. And we spoke to Jenna about it, and so there's no backup for what happens. And so what concerns me, it's a prime example of whānau missing out on food, which is quite scary, isn't it,
But where you fit into the scheme of things is sorting that out. Because
Yeah.
we're going to. If someone ends up in hospital.
That's
there's
right.
all
We
the
have to
different
do...
situations where there is no organisation as such that can help.
Can help.
We do.
So we did the food parcel before we came here. So, it was sorted. But, if they don't want agencies involved, how going forward is that going to happen? So that's just one example of what, is happening out there. And I understand fully that funding and organisations change. Thank God ours hasn't. We're still able to carry on helping those and reach out to those in need. And I think that's what we're known for.
And young pregnant women that you're helping at the moment too, that have nowhere else to go.
That's right. We do
So
have...
that's our real strength at the moment, is we are a hub in that particularly low socioeconomic community. We've got lots of agencies working with us, available there to the community every week. People can just pop in. We've got a free health clinic down there every week, but also they can come for the advocacy. They can come when they don't know where else to go or don't know who to talk to, or anxiety's got the better of them, and then working with Donna to take the next steps and find out where it is that they need to go to and make those connections, and if they don't succeed, then we help them to keep going.
We don't just hand them over to somebody else, we walk with them to make sure that at the end of their day, they're getting what they deserve, you know, and what is needed for them to live a better life.
So that's one part of what we do, is that advocacy stuff. The other thing we've been doing is running lots of programs. We run Monday to Thursday. We have day programs available, lots of sewing and knitting and crochet and cooking and whatever the community is asking us for, we're providing. But it's around teaching them the life skills to better themselves, so they don't have to always be reliant on someone else to help them out all the time. We're trying to give them their independence back and making them the owners of their own journey. So a real strong focus for us at Te Whenua is trying to give people the skills to better themselves.
A fine example is we've got a hapu mama at the moment who has really needed supporting, and we were able to give her a crock pot. We had a crock pot in our cupboard, and encouraged her to buy the veggies from the veggie co-op, and so she's making stews and soups and looking after her and her partner now, as well as this unborn baby.
And she's going to come and learn to knit.
And now she's coming to learn to knit as of yesterday. So, you know, it's just gradual steps. And, you know, I work alongside Emerge. I go with Joe, and that's under Trust House, wearing the Trust House hat. So I go along with Joe if they are our tenants, and I can do the mahi that Joe can't, like went to one whānau yesterday. The children needed bedding, so I went with bedding, and we were gifted dog food, so we were able to supply the dog food. And I'd gone the fortnight before, and she was quite, you know, it was our first visit, and I could see that she was quite apprehensive about it. Yesterday, we're invited every fortnight for a cup of coffee when she moves in to her new whare that is going to be warm. And this is a young mum that was on the streets and is so grateful living in a cold, horrible, rundown home. But she's been given one from Trust House. So, you know, it works. If we just keep that circle of caring for people, caring for our whānau, and, you know, always looking out. You know, I always want to be a step ahead so that we don't have people living poorly, you know, and desperate.
And not knowing where they can go.
Yeah. So we want to be that one-stop shop where we can, you know, give them a hug, you know, let them know that somebody cares, somebody gives a shit about what happens in their life. And that's what we're about. And we work good as a team. Is that 10 minutes? The bell hasn't rung.
Any more questions? Thank you for the work and advocacy for that community that you do, and we'll let you know the result of your application in the next 2 weeks, okay? So thanks again, and thanks for your time today as well.
Thank you. Lovely. Cheers. Thanks, Gary. Big. See you later. See you later. Take care.
Right, so our next applicant presenting is Emily Port from Pukaha National Wildlife Centre. So welcome, Emily. You have 10 minutes, 7 minutes to present, and then 3 minutes for questions from members at the end. So the floor is all yours.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't think I'll need the whole 10 minutes. I'm here and would just like to, in person, talk a little bit about our application for some financial support. I won't go through the application itself word for word, except to say that Pukaha is a community project, it has always been a community project, and I hope that you will agree that it's an important part of the Wairarapa brand, the Wairarapa identity. It is, as the organisation itself takes the role of kaitiaki of this beautiful taonga very, very seriously, and we need the Masterton District Council and Tararua District Council as well, as they are, we straddle both, to continue to partner with us to deliver what we do. As I noted in our application, the contribution that we're requesting is a modest one. We understand and acknowledge the financial pressure that everybody is under, ourselves included. Our operating costs are steadily growing, have been steadily growing, and we acknowledge that now is not the time to ask for more from local government. So we don't want to do that. We're asking for an ongoing contribution that will help us in particular to get through winter. This is the time of the year that we normally receive our grant from each of the councils, and it is the time of the year where we are most stressed financially from an operating perspective. Our commercial revenue halves around this time of the year, but our costs do not change. So it is good timing and an important part of our planning and budgeting to be able to receive some extra support, just to keep the doors open and keep the lights on through the winter, despite the downtime for our tourism business, which is what props up the business and allows us to do what we do out in the forest and continue to grow. I'm really excited to let you know that we've just had our annual numbers. It's the end of our financial year. It looks like as an organisation we will be just right at that break-even point for the full financial year, which is quite an achievement given what we've been through. And our visitor numbers have just ticked over the 30,000 visitor mark, and that's just visitors through our visitor centre and not including the participants in the number of events and conferences and who we held in our new wānanga as well. So we're getting there. Pre-COVID we were at about 42,000 is our best ever number, the last year prior to COVID, and we're now getting back there and closer to those sort of numbers. So I'm really excited about the future, but we do need your ongoing support and partnership for the next 3 years. So,
does anyone have any questions?
Kia ora, thank you. You said that your numbers didn't include Waina?
Yes.
So would that be adding on more?
Oh, significantly more. Yes.
How much more?
Yeah, good question. I actually need to do those numbers. My estimate would be, on top of that, we're looking at about 2,500 students, learners, and then we have our conferences and that as well. And each of those has been, between 30 and 130 visitors. So I'd say that's going to add another few thousand to our numbers. The important thing for me has been comparing apples with apples in terms of tracking how we're going against pre-COVID numbers to current. We talk about visitor numbers, so I need to do some work on how we should report on and track that wānanga usage. It's a bit of a tricky one that I haven't quite got my head around yet, to be honest.
About how many conferences do you per year, or have you yet?
Our target is to have 2 to 3 non-school, non-education groups utilise the facility each month. And we're well on track to be achieving that. So I'm pretty happy about that. We've had some quite random events that have come out of the blue. We've just secured an event by the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra in October, which is really exciting, and they're going to do some performances in our wānanga, and it'll be a ticketed event for the community come along to. Some different types of groups, lots of social services actually, government and non-government organisations using the facility for 2 or 3 day wānanga, cleaning wānanga and the likes, and that seems to be really hitting the mark in terms of what we offer and the cost point as well. Obviously, heading off to a local hotel and expensive accommodation options is not a great option for most government organisations right now. Looking at doing things more cost effectively, so we've got quite an opportunity to tap into that market.
No, thank you, Emily. So we'll let you know within the next 2 weeks the result of the
Lovely.
application.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you
I
for your
appreciate
time.
your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily.
Right, good. The next applicant is Andrea Jackson and others AJ
Kia ora te.
from Nuku Ora. So welcome, guys. You've got 10 minutes for your presentation, and that will be 7 minutes for you to present and then 3 minutes for questions to ask. So the floor is all yours when you're ready.
Kia ora, thanks.
Kia ora. E na mana whenua, o te rāna mauri o te rohe nei, e mihi ana. E nā rangatira, tēnā koutou katoa, ko Andrew Leslie Tukuunga. I'm Andrew, I'm Chief Executive of Nuku Ora. Here today to support AJ and Chloe. Just wanted to kind of set the scene. So we're a charitable trust, and the mahi we do is to support and provide leadership to the regional physical activity system. And we have a very holistic view on what physical activity is. So that's play, active recreation, sport, active transport. And also we have a strong equity focus. So we really sort of prioritise our work into communities where people are experiencing the most sort of barriers to being physically active. Look, we've enjoyed a really enduring, long-standing partnership with Masterton District Council. Really excited about the future. Just to sort of frame up the funding proposal that we have put in front of you. We currently have funders, government funders in terms of Sport New Zealand, Te Whatu Ora, ACC, that fund into sort of our business as usual work in the Wairarapa. We have invested, Nuku Ora has invested beyond that in recent times, so we've significantly increased our resource into the Wairarapa and into Masterton District Council, because we're super excited about the mahi we can do here and the impact that we have. So we're looking for funding support to help make that whole scenario sustainable. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, AJ, to talk in a bit more detail about that. Kia ora.
Kia ora everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss today, and just to acknowledge the challenge that you face. When I read your submissions and looked at your oversubscribed for this 3-year funding, let alone the rest of your contestable funds. So thank you for meeting with us. And also just to acknowledge the decision to review the decision around 3 years funding. It does provide an opportunity for our community around that sustainability of funding. So just to acknowledge that as well. I'll just tag through the things that we've allocated some money aside, and then happy to answer questions at the end. The first one I just wanted to acknowledge was the neighbourhood manager. We're currently working with Te Whatu Ora and are hoping to secure funding from them to work in the Masterton East community. There's obviously health benefit outcomes, but for us that holistic way of looking at sports, fitness, recreation and play. So we're just looking for a Plan B partner as well. We're talking to Kāinga Ora, we've had positive conversations with Trust House as well, but just flagging out there if Te Whatu Ora funding doesn't come through, we just wanted to flag that there may be a request for funding in that space, and if that's something that Masterton District Council would like to partner on. The sports and facilities strategy, we note that through your LTP, and we've requested a $10,000 contribution towards staff time for that. Having the luxury of insights and intel from previous work that we've done, and also the intel and information from Sport New Zealand, as well as the local knowledge, I think we are well placed to support that mahi within the community. Te Manawa funding, we've also requested funding for the next 3 years to help support that. Chloe and I did some work this week, and it's no surprise to Andrew, we are here to represent the Wairarapa community, and of the $1.4 million that gets given to us for Sport New Zealand that we deliver out on behalf of that, less than 13% comes to the Wairarapa. We want to put a targeted effort on that and make sure that more of our community receives that funding, and we can only do that by having people on the ground being connected to our community and knowing where the needs are. And just to reiterate Andrew's points, that's in the equity focus lens, so that's particularly around women and girls, those most vulnerable in need, Pacifica, Māori and disabilities areas of priority for that. So 3 years funding around that. Spaces and places, this work has been underway for quite some time and has been what has previously been funded. The two recent pieces of work that have come out of that are the indoor court studies and the sports field studies, which Council has been part of and received some information on. Again, that's probably some interest in terms of planning for the future. That's of interest to the Council. And just to acknowledge, we're meeting with your contractor around the War Memorial Stadium in the next couple of weeks around that came through that LTP submission. The next one is just how we support our ageing community, and thanks to Gary for attending the senior games. We look forward to you participating next year, Gary, as well as just visiting. We are requesting some funding to deliver that project here in the Wairarapa. That's straight funding in and funding out. We will pay for the rec centre with that money that you provide us with. And the ACC contract has given us a resource in terms of a person that supports that mahi in the Wairarapa. And the last one is leadership and advocacy. There's a lot of mahi that happens that probably isn't visible, and something that us as Nika Order will work on around completing governance reviews, helping sports codes recruit for positions. We run the regional sports sector meeting where we shared the Voice of Rangatahi information with all of our codes yesterday. We're about to open that up to all of our clubs across the Wairarapa, governance training, coach development and youth development. So they're the leadership and advocacy. By having people on the ground, we can help with that. Thank you. That's me in a speedy summary, and again just thank you very much for your support today and the opportunity to submit.
Thank you guys. Bex.
AJ, hi.
Hi.
You know the one you talked about for females and other different sectors, is that the two manawa?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, just
yep.
wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
And the other thing, I see that you had some work in there to do with helping sport and recreation providers with climate change adaptation response. I thought that was completely left field and wondered what the connection was.
So there's a couple of things. What do you want to respond to that, Andrew?
Yeah, I can talk. So looking at the sector as a whole across New Zealand and Sport New Zealand's leadership of the sector, there's a lot of focus going in on not only sort of how the sector goes about its work, but the impact that climate change has on the delivery of sport and recreation. So it's a bit of, there's sort of two sides to this. There's the sort of mitigation side and the adaptation side. So it's very kind of early days for our sector generally to be thinking about this, but obviously like every sector we need to think about this. And so with our leadership role we can, we've got the ability I guess to sort of look up and out more than the, think about the clubs and the regional sporting organisations that are really focused in on the day-to-day making. So yeah, providing leadership to help sort of bring the sector on a bit of a journey there.
And the other thing I thought was helpful that you've broken out the costs for the different areas. I found that most helpful, rather than,
a lump. Yeah. And that's just to acknowledge that it is tough times and there's competing interests, and if there's areas of work that are a priority and fit, then that might be an easier way to...
Much easier. Thanks.
Any more questions, Gary?
Yeah, AJ, it'd be fair to say, wouldn't it that you've now got a team dedicated to the Wairarapa in terms of in your organisation?
Yeah, so one FTE, Chloe's come back and is 0.5 FTE. You've got Reece Robinson, who's just picked up the green prescription, which will be helping around physical wellbeing and nutrition, another full-time. And we're waiting for our general manager to come back, but we're also pushing for that positive ageing role, the ACC committed funding also to be hopefully based. I've still got to twist Andrew's arm in the Wairarapa also because we have an ageing population, so it makes sense. So yeah, we will have a team of...
And then there's the other AJ.
Oh, the other AJ, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, the other AJ. And predominantly mahi based in the South Wairarapa, but also we focused on the community at Masterton East also.
That's great. Thank you.
Any more questions? Right, thanks Andrew, Chloe and AJ for your time.
Awesome, appreciate it.
In 2 weeks for our
Thank you
Thanks,
very
team.
much.
Have a good day.
Okay.
Our next applicant presenting is Bev Jack from the Wairarapa Community Centre Trust.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
Bev.
Thank you.
And Bev, you have 10 minutes, so 7 minutes to present, and then 3 minutes for questions from the panel. So the floor is all yours, Bev.
Okay. The community centre's been around for 22 years. We own the hub that we currently operate from. The first 10 years was a rental property, and then with the support of Masterton District Council and some of our local funders here, we purchased the facility just down the road here in Perry Street. So we're seeking funding with a request to be on the 3-year long-term plan again. We got it for the first time in the last quarter, and this came about applying for the long-term plan because you'll see in my submission there I did a survey within the Wellington, Wanganui, Wairarapa district to find what was happening with other community centres and how do they become sustainable financially. We lost $30,000 from lotteries because they were no longer going to fund a facility and operations for that. Lotteries were well aware that there's only one other community centre charitable trust within the region that I've just talked about, and that is Featherston. All the other community centres are owned by council, and if not completely operated 100% by council. In some scenarios they own the building and they employ all staff and have complete control over the centre, and in other situations where there had been a committee, they own the building and they allow the committee to do the day-to-day operations of that building. When we lost our money from lotteries, if we didn't find a more sustainable funding application, the community centre, the likelihood was the community centre was going to close. What does that community centre offer our community? We have 18 offices within our building. Every single one of those are occupied 100%, and we do our damnedest to make sure that that happens regularly. We had 1 year just pre-COVID where we had 12 months where we had one office empty. In my 11 years of employment in the community centre, that's the only time we've had one occupancy bed for that, available for that period of time. And we are not only completely full, we have a waiting list. I am subleasing offices. I'm on the go the whole entire time, making sure that those offices, even that are leased, if those people are not here and they're in a different town or they don't work today, because a lot of the NGOs are only part-time, then I am putting other short-term people into those facilities to make sure that we have our facility is constantly being used by our community. It's a community centre hub, which means I just did a survey actually for our long-term plan to show what was happening in our community centre. During the work week, internally, our age group of visitors, we had 155 responses for the survey, and they were aged between 25 and 50 years of age, the visitors that were coming to the centre. 80% of those were coming to see a specific tenant within the building. So those tenants are all social services. They're either health, educational, or counselling, psychologists, employment sector working within that centre, Heart Foundation, a social worker, and a women's centre. The externals, we have a conference room and a community kitchen, and in that survey, the large portion, there was 90% of the users were 65 plus. Which was interesting, but when I thought about it, who's going to hire a conference room in the middle of the day? unless it's like the council holding a staff meeting, or, you know, your community activators, or there are places like Age Concern running their coffee morning, it's somebody running a board meeting. So it made sense that external users, were, a large portion of them were over 65s. We asked them whether they found, had they utilised the centre for any other services to show did we have a wraparound service, or were they coming particularly for one meeting or to see one particular person. And the people that were coming to see agencies knew of other agencies within the building, if they or had also accessed another service within the building. Externals, the percentage wasn't as high, so they were coming for a specific thing and then they were leaving. But because on our front foyer we have all the names of everybody within our building, they were aware of who what some of the other agencies were in the building. And only one couldn't find the centre, and that was to go to a meeting. Of the people that we asked, was it easy to find? And they said they couldn't because they were looking for the particular agency within the building rather than knowing that person was in a community centre hub. So it was around how that agency was advertising where they were. If they'd said that they were at the Waipa Community Centre, the person would have found them, but they were looking for the particular person, not necessarily the agency or the hub. So we've got our internal tenants, we have our externals renting our conference rooms. We had over 90 agencies renting space within our building in the last 12 months. And we have also our other arm, the Trust's other arm. We own a building. We employ staff. I'm the only full-time worker, and we have 3 part-time workers. And those staff are to support us in running projects, because we also have under our umbrella Food Resilient Wairarapa. And in the last fiscal year, I ran 10 projects for the community. We have 3 programs. I've just run from one right now, which is the Grow Community Garden, Grow meeting Garden Food Resilience and Optimum Wellbeing. And under those umbrellas, we ran 7 other projects. So we believe that that we are not only a hub, but we are a long-term champion. We've got proven outcomes within the services that we provide. And to have the 3-year funding will help us continue to have that long-term view and picture of what our community looks like, and how we can work with other partners to get support for people that come through our door. And so one of the things I wanted to share with you is an example.
Just to let you know,
yes.
you're past your 7 minutes, so you use
questions. I thought you were going to ding or something, so I knew that.
Right here. Yeah. But,
so,
would you like questions now? Would you like
yes, please do so. Yes, thanks.
Hey Beth, have you ever considered releasing the equity in your building?
Yes.
And using that, putting that money towards the great work that you do?
Yes, we have. Before we applied for the long-term plan the last 3 years, that was an option that was considered. If our funding became tight or lack of, and we couldn't be sustainable, the question was, we actually believe we have to put it back to the community, because the community, it was community funds, and the community should be directing us as what should happen to that community centre, rather than the trust making the decision to sell the land. But it certainly is and was an option.
Because the reason why I ask is that Lands Trust, for example, have some community groups where the funding is the rent of the building.
Yes.
So you
so we apply for that.
Yeah. No, where they're in a Lands Trust building.
Oh, I see.
Yes. And so it's a rent remission, which is a grant.
Yes.
And so my thought is, you've got a $600,000 property, or
$750,000.
$750,000 property. Yeah. You're paying rates, you're paying insurance, you're paying maintenance, and yet, you're at the whim of grants and funding.
Completely agree. I mean, my personal opinion is a non-for-profit shouldn't have, to be asset rich is crazy when we're cash poor.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion, I'm not the trust. But one of the things that the concern was, if we sell that building and we have all this money in our bank, we cannot apply for any more grants because we're too cash rich.
Yeah.
And then it's only a short-term solution to being poor at the end of it. And is there going to be that opportunity then to rent a space big enough to be a hub and not have all those people go out individually again to be supporting themselves? So we didn't see it as the long-term solution moving forward. We felt that all we were going to be doing was spending that money to put into rent somewhere else or rent back the building we currently had, and within no time the whole asset was going to be, the financial asset was going to be gone.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
So it didn't seem to be, that is not out of the picture, and if the board have to make that decision, it will be the case.
Because you were talking about, in a lot of areas, councils own,
yes,
or other entities own the buildings, but it's
well, the
provided
council
for that,
owns the building, not any other identity.
provided
yeah.
for that purpose, though.
That's correct. So, yeah, definitely 3 years ago when we applied for the long-term plan here, we put a proposal forward to gift our building to the council. The council didn't want it. And so instead, we put 3 options forward. Our 4th option was to sell the building. We didn't tell you guys that though, but that's the trust's backup plan, is to sell the building. Yeah, so it has been considered.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more questions, anyone?
Thank you for the work you
Thanks,
do.
Bev.
And
Thank you.
thank you for your presentation. So we'll be in
Thanks.
touch in 2 weeks with the outcome of the application.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rightio. So our next applicant presenting, John Hart and Kristen Brown. So welcome guys, and we've got Lois as well.
We do. We invited Vlad.
Hi.
He came along with his mother to submit on the long-term plan a little bit earlier, and he's very involved with it, so we brought him along as well in case anyone had a question. Do you mind if I hand out something for each of you?
What was your name again, sorry?
Vlad.
Yeah, you're
Vlad.
Vlad, like Vladimir.
Thank you, Vlad. So guys, you have 10 minutes to present, and that's 7 minutes for your presentation, and you'll hear a bell go, and then 3 minutes for questions at the end.
Oops.
You won't start your 10 minutes yet, though.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we'll keep it. So the reason for handing you guys one of these each is that even though Fab Lab has been around for more than 8 years now, it's still something that some people don't really know what it is. So we just I'm just going to stand up here, feel better. So we feel better handing that out to you so that you've got something you can take away with you later on. So yeah, that What's Fab Lab thing is something that we share with people who inquire and come and ask at the lab, and we also stick it in the window so if anyone's walking past our space they can find that out as well. So digital fabrication space, it's what is proliferating around the world, has been for the last 20 or so years. There are more than 2,000 Fab Labs globally, and a Fab Lab is simply a community makerspace. So it's a place where the community can go to make things. Usually it's filled with digital making tools and people who know how to navigate you through them so that you can do something where you live and you don't have to send it off to China to ask them to make it for you. You can prototype it and understand it. In our community, in a rural community, Fab Labs are very rare and mostly in big cities. But we started one here because we wanted to see what our rural community could do with a thing like this. And in those 8 years, it's been incredible, and the impact has been amazing. And we really cherish our relationship with the council because it has allowed us for the last 5, going on 6 years now, to magnify, multiply that impact in the community. Okay, so we'll also have some other bits and pieces here that I'll leave behind for you. I'm just going to grab my little notepad out.
So we started 8 years ago as an experiment when Sandy Ryan at Connecting Communities took a punt, and we brought a container up from Christchurch called the Maker Crate. So that was a miniature fab lab inside a 20-foot shipping container. And that was actually sitting in the lab as published today. So that was our very first foray into sort of connecting the community with this technology. And then from that point on, our mission was to work with the library to, joined by Vic Oliver, who was our mad scientist. You may not realise that Vic is actually 3D printing royalty around the world. Vic was in the team that actually developed the very first 3D printers. So,
in the world.
In the world. So we're very, very lucky to have Vic as part of the lab crew.
Living in Masterton. He's also developing right now another 3D printer, the Micron.
Yes.
Which we are learning a lot about. This is another global project, isn't it?
It's like a 3D printer, but it works down to 1,000th of a millimetre. The idea being to give anyone with spending very little money on the thing the ability to do stuff like microelectronics and micromechanical systems. It's open source.
Meaning, Vic talks about it in the Fab Lab here in Masterton with our community.
I'll be presenting it in Mexico next month, together with the keyboard that we make for this.
So we can maybe get into, we've got questions later, maybe get into that. So what we really want to talk about is Fab Lab's track record. So yes, we started more than 8 years ago in the Times Age building and have moved a few times and been hosted since then. Tim knows about that. In fact, we were hosted at Lakeview School post our Memorandum of Understanding with the Council, our first MOU. After that was already signed and agreed to, very much ushered through with us by Fraser Melman, who saw the potential here and also saw the potential that Sandy Green saw. She was the first person who came to see us when we had the Times Age building and said, can we combine those efforts? Hence the Maker Crate.
Ever since we've been working towards that goal.
Yeah, so it's been going towards the goal of bringing together the capability and the skills that we offer with the knowledge that you can get and the connection that you get, culture that you get with a library. That's why you see so many maker spaces popping up everywhere. The difference between I'm going off piece a little bit. we should go with the track record. So, we survived on different grants, bits and pieces, constantly applying for the first 3 years. Once we received our MOU, which was 5 years ago, we knew that we could have a baseline that we could take for granted. That was a space, and that was a little bit of funding to keep the lights on and keep some public access happening. That was what was required in our MOU. So then, after Corin came along as library manager, we signed the MOU for a second 3-year period. Same levels for everything, same kaupapa, same reason to exist. Give the public access to this space, but also give the library somewhere that they could take for granted and use as well. So our library doesn't have any of the skills really needed to keep the lights on and keep the thing alive, keep all the machines running. But currently we have a library project printing in the lab right now because we have done this over time. What that's meant also is that over those 5 years, we've been able to multiply the effect of that small money has doubled. We've included a budget that we created for last year, coming up to the next one now, which allowed us to reinvest what we'd earned through commissions by just bumping into things happen, people talk to each other, and commissions came through. This big one from Coca-Cola that we do gets sent around the world, very simple thing, but we do it and make it happen, has earned enough money, along with koha that we've received from the community, to replace all those 3D printers, including the couple that the library had from a while ago that were no good anymore. We've replaced all of them with 6 fresh new ones, and those things are cooking with gas right now. Yeah, so we know that the model works by doing the model. Yeah. So our impact is local mostly. So Masterton citizens, Masterton schools, Masterton businesses all are constantly coming through. On that sheet you'll see that we count the interactions. Every time we submit for our next year's funding, our 20K for that year, we have handed in one of those records. It's not required in our MOU, but we always send it with the invoice. So you can see what we have done and what we plan to do for the next 12 months every time we send in an invoice. That's the last one that we sent, the last invoice. Yeah, so
just letting you know, you're into your question time now.
Oh, are we?
So, Blair, do you want to share?
Sure. This here is a machine I built. I built something similar to it at the Fab Lab, but it was an eggbot, which is a machine that draws on eggs, basically. So I took the electronics out of that and 3D printed a new frame, and now I have this machine, which is based off of a different 3D printer. This is not a 3D printer. It does not have the stuff required to make it a 3D printer, but it is basically just the basics of a 3D printer. It's got 3 motors and all the parts to make it move. All the wiring and electronics I learnt to do from the Fab Lab. Yeah. I've been coming to the lab for 5 years now, and I have made quite a few things and learnt quite a few skills.
What year were you in?
I'm a year 9.
First year in high school.
Yeah.
So 5 years ago was when we first moved into the space that the council has provided for us. Yeah. Before that we were moving around different spaces. And Vlad came in at that time. We were next to the library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the most amazing stories I heard not long ago was that one of our alumni from the lab now works at Rocket Lab. And they said they literally got inspired into technology when they were coming through as a high school student and went on to finish their degree, and now they're working making real rockets. So it's kind of a neat impact that we've had on our community.
Well, it's not, and it's not just the impact like where people end up. It's the connections that are made within there. So, for example, yeah, that's right. It's the connections between generations that happen inside the Fab Lab, and that's because someone who's young is teaching someone who's old, and vice versa in there. It's very equal. Also the connections between cultures. So Tamara has spent a lot of time with Diana Cruz developing resources for schools where, I guess in a similar way to these prototypes for the Whitipoa bridge work, Diana wants some of her communities to be able to reflect their own culture in their work. Using these little whare that they have built, little houses, laser cut houses, they can decorate them with their own cultural patterns. So Diana's working with the Fab Lab on that. We spend a lot of time making sure that we connect people who may not ordinarily be connected in the community. Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions? No?
Why have you bought that tower?
I brought this tower to show some of the limits of 3D printing. You can print big things like this tower, but sometimes you'll have to split it up into pieces. This piece here and this piece here were connected using a 3D pen, which is like a 3D printer, minus all the electronics. It's just the part that melts the filament. Yeah.
I'd like to just add one more thing, and that's that other libraries have makerspaces. They tend to come from a librarian point of view, which is entry level. Where we come from is an industry point of view. We come from how will this apply in real life to things that you see affecting you in real life, big deal stuff. So we come from that point of view, but give people entry level experiences and they take it all the way through. So this is Vlad having begun with entry level experiences and taking it through to an industry level. And through people like Vic, you can see the impact you can have globally.
So I do a lot of liaising with MIT. I go over there and teach stuff that we've learned here in Masterton, believe it or not, and then come back with more ideas from meeting people there from all over the world.
And so the same lab that produces Vlad's experience in learning also produces spare parts for Coca-Cola. If you use a drink machine in Australasia, there's a piece of FabLab in that machine. We've got parts in over 2,500 machines now across Australasia that we've printed for Coke right here in Masterton.
And what's cool is that the money that we've earned from that has paid for new 3D printers that belong to this community. So they're part of the trust, which wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Any more questions there?
What do you hope to do in the future? Do you know?
No, I don't really know what I will end up doing or what I want to end up doing. Currently, what I do is just a hobby. It could not become a hobby and become a job later in life. There is a company called Beans, the biology educators Aotearoa New Zealand. They have commissioned me to print out kiwi sternums because apparently it's illegal to go out and kill kiwis.
Not even apparently.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I've been printing a bunch of these bones here using my 3D printer at home.
What would you do with them?
With this.
What do they do?
For education.
Oh, yeah. They're going to take them. I don't know what they're going to do with them. They're probably going to send them out to schools and stuff like that.
So why the sternum of the kiwi?
I don't know why the sternum specifically. All I was told is print out the bones, we'll pay you.
So there's a lot of So this goes into molecular biology as well. So and that's Vic's daughter runs that.
There was a project a couple of years ago where they were taking moa bones and printing them in plastic because you couldn't handle the original moa bones. So they would have these plastic facsimiles. They'd get to schools and universities so they could teach with them basically.
And how traditionally they were used to make other artifacts and so.
Sorry, we've totally gone over. Apologise.
We've given you a small snippet of the things. We could tell you a million stories of the cool stuff we've done.
Okay. So thanks Vic, Vlad, Kirsten and John. So we'll be in touch with you within 2 weeks with the result of your application. Thank you for your time and for sharing the work with us.
Kia ora, thank you.
Thanks very much. Cheers guys. So we will now adjourn the meeting and we'll reconvene at 1 p.m. next Wednesday, 17th of July, to make our decisions on the applications before us. So thank you everyone for your time today.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair.